What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From the Bench. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and today is our Monday edition of the show where we are going to react to everything that happened this past Saturday. And again, it's a double episode with basketball and football. It's a great time to be a Tennessee fan in all sorts and all aspects of the athletic department right now. Basketball got a big win this weekend. Football got a big win this weekend. We've got a big week ahead of us, but today we're going to focus more on what happened this past weekend. Before I get into anything, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment if you're at any of the games this past weekend or how you feel about any of the games, because, again, it's a great time to be a Tennessee fan. But here we go. Let's just get straight into it. Obviously, to no introduction, obviously most Tennessee fans probably watched both games this weekend. The Tennessee basketball team got a big win over Louisville, and the football team got a big win over Mississippi State. We're going to start the episode by talking about football, and then we're going to end the episode by talking about basketball. So football, they won 33-14 against Mississippi State. A good win. I mean, it's SEC football. You win by dang near 20 points. There's no complaints here, and obviously we know Nico didn't play in the second half, and he was having a great first half. So you play him, it probably would have been a whole different story. But he didn't, and we hope to have him back next weekend. And from all reports, we should. Nico finished the game 8 of 13 for 174 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both his touchdowns were to receivers, as obviously they were to tight ends last weekend. But the receivers got it done this past game. Dante Thornton had 3 catches for 104 yards and a touchdown, and Squirrel White had 3 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. Then we got it down on the ground, too. Obviously, we've got to stop fumbling, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Dylan Sampson, 30 carries for 149 yards and another touchdown. I mean, it's just routine for him. It's just, when is he going to get in the end zone at this point? And it's a great win. Everybody, I mean, if you watch that last episode on Friday, my number one hope was a win, obviously. But the other thing I wanted was the deep ball, and we got obviously one really long deep ball. And then, I mean, heck, I'm counting the squirrel play as a deep ball too, because we haven't had anything that looks like that. I mean, that was 34 yards, I think. We haven't had that at all this year. Obviously, the Dante Thornton was like a 70-yard ball. So, obviously, that's way more of a deep throw or a deep ball touchdown. But we got the deep ball going. It's felt refreshing almost just to see that get going and more incorporated in our offense. Obviously, when Casson Moore got in, it's like the playbook changed, because he just threw it down the field every play for what it seemed like the first drive or two with him. And I don't know, he didn't connect on a deep ball, but he forced like 2 or 3 pass interference. So I mean, we were moving the ball, and there were pretty balls too. He throws a good deep ball along the sidelines, and I think they knew that. And he doesn't throw it very hard, especially across the middle. So I think they kind of knew going in, let's just stick with what he's best at. So they were challenging Mississippi State along the sidelines deep. Nico, they're saying it's an upper body injury. Some have said concussion. Some have said left shoulder. I've heard a whole lot of. I don't know exactly what it is. I researched it before I recorded this episode, and I couldn't find it. But here we are, and we're going to keep on moving. I don't know what it was, but it is what it is. The Vols moved up to 6 in the AP poll. Indiana jumped us, and they haven't beat anybody yet, but they're undefeated, and that just about locks them into the playoffs. So, credit to them. I'm pretty sure as long as they don't – I know they've got 2 games left. They're 10-0 right now, and one of them's Ohio State, which I think they're going to beat Ohio State, but that's besides the point. So we're at 6 right now, and, we control our own destiny. We obviously know what's at task this next weekend, and we'll get more into that later on into the week. But, we're sitting here at – what's our record? We're 8-1, and 11-1 is very likely. Obviously, UTEP is, you kind of count that as 9-1. Vanderbilt, and I keep saying it, and South Carolina is a good football team too. Don't get me wrong, but they kind of got worked this weekend. Vanderbilt got worked by South Carolina. I think you win against Vanderbilt, because I think that's also going to be more of a home game for us than it is them. And then Georgia, and we'll get more into it later on in the week, like I just said. But, I mean, Carson Beck's not good. I mean, he's just been horrible all year. And, we're going to have to see how our defense fares against them. And, if Nico's fully healthy, and, there's going to be a lot of things that factor into it. That's why In the next few episodes, we're going to get more information, and obviously there'll be more injury reports and more reports in general around the program throughout the week that we'll have on Wednesday and Friday. But, if I'm a Vols fan, it's hard not to feel good because it's going to be 6 versus – Georgia dropped all the way to 11, so it'll be 6 versus 11, college game day, nighttime game. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. It's going to be a tough game, to say the least. But, everybody keeps saying it. We don't even if we don't win and we finish 10-2, I don't know. But we'll see. On the defensive end, getting away from kind of the offensive end – first, special teams. Max Gilbert played great. He was 4-4 on field goal attempts and did miss extra point, which is day and night compared to what he was a week ago. So thank you, Max Gilbert, for getting the job done this past week. On the defensive end, the defensive line just got after it. We didn't stop the run very well this past week, but Omar Norman Lott had a sack, Jason Jenkins had a sack, Bryson Eason had a sack, and James Pierce had a sack. So credit to those guys getting after the quarterback. And Brew Carter played a great game really all night. He was all over the place. I was at the game, and it seemed like his name was getting called the whole night. He had a pick and returning punts, and he's so good there's a lot of guys just in football in general that kind of run around like a chicken with their head cut off in open space. And he does such a good job at keeping his head up and hitting you low. And it's low man wins in football, and he does such a good job at that. And he's just electric. He's fun to watch. And the safeties played good. Jermon McCoy played good. We held him to like 93 passing yards. The secondary was great. We did force the pick, like I said, with Boo Carter early in the game. We didn't stop the run very well, like I said. But, 14 points is 14 points. And we still have not allowed 20 points all year, which is absolutely mind-boggling to say in the SEC. The big one will be this weekend against Georgia. If we hold them below 20, then it should. We're gonna send a message. Even if this game, my mind starts racing when I start thinking about this Georgia game coming up. Even if we don't win that game, if it's close, you got to think they put us in, and it's almost like a nervous thing for me that if we lose to them, is it just done? But who knows? Again. Football team, great. It was a great atmosphere. The student section was kind of out early. I think after Nico left, or Nico didn't come back in the game, and we kind of knew we were going to win. It was late. People started kind of trickling out. But at the start of the game, especially, the atmosphere was great. It's always going to be fun with nighttime on Neyland, or Neyland at night, however you want to call it. But a great atmosphere, great football team, played great. And like I said, I think my prediction was 38-14. I'm not 100% correct or 100% sure on that, but I was close. I was telling my buddy on the way home from the game, I said I can't wait for the day that I perfectly predict a score on the podcast, and I'll have proof for it, obviously because I'll predict it on a Friday, but that's besides the point. But the gist of football, great win by the team. You win by dang near 20 in SEC play. Good teams find ways to win games even when their quarterback doesn't get to play. So credit to the Vols in that aspect of it. Pray for Nico's health. Dylan Sampson, hope his knee's all right. Obviously, it was a very scary sight how he went down, and it took quite a while to get back up, but obviously he finished the game. So hopefully he's all right. Just the main thing for this weekend is going to be getting healthy. So we'll got to pray for that health and see how we match up against Georgia this coming Saturday, and we'll figure that out on Wednesday and Friday. But switching sports, basketball, if you got to watch the game, our basketball team played really stinking good. They beat the Louisville Cardinals 77-55 at Louisville. It was a great atmosphere at Louisville. Louisville's got like 15 transfers and a new coach, and they after last year, because Louisville basketball is traditionally a pretty good program, and last year they were the worst team in Power 5 basketball. Like, it wasn't even close. Power 6 if you count the Big East, but they were horrendous. And to them it feels like a rejuvenation, a whole new page flipped in the aspect of a new coach and new players, and they have a nice roster. They've got some good players, a lot of good players. Their transfer group was great. They got one of the better transfers in the country. And they also got Chucky Hepburn, who we played last year, if you guys remember, when we played at Wisconsin, and he played good against us. He had like 5 steals. Zakai Ziegler finished the game with 19 points and 7 assists. Chaz Lanier had 19 points and hit 3 threes, shot 50% from the three-point line. And Felix Okapara had 10 points, 6 rebounds, and a block. The only thing out of those 3 guys that I can take away bad was Zakai had 11 turnovers. And, you win by 22 in a hostile environment, and he played, he shot the ball well. He did a lot of good things, but you can't turn the ball over 11 times as a point guard at all. I mean, you'll lose games like that. But, I mean, don't get me wrong, Zakai played a great game. It's just, if you watch that game, it felt like we would be up by about 15 or so. And as soon as Louisville would start cutting back into it and the crowd got going, it was just 2 threes by us, or a dunk and a 3. Speaking of dunks, Cade Phillips played great off the bench. I think he had 6 points and 6 rebounds. Just a plug-in piece, just an energizer bunny off the bench. Plays hard. He plays defense hard. He attacks the rim hard, and he's a great pick-and-roll piece for Zakai. He had 2 lob dunks from Zakai. So credit to him. JP Estrella played all right. He had 3 points and 5 rebounds, I think, off the bench. I mean, the bench played good. Jason Gainey had 9 points. Meshack, I mean, man, that guy, it may not show up all in the box score, but he does so many things. And I keep saying it, what you're going to get with him and Zakai. And, I mean, the ball pressure that those two apply is just unreal. It's the 2 of the best defenders. It may be the 2 best on-ball defenders in the country right now, and that's not an exaggeration at all. But this basketball team's good. Chaz Lanier is so composed. He makes so many tough shots, but he just stays so calm too. It's almost like he's moving in slow motion. He does not let anybody speed him up. He's going to be big for us this year. He's going to be our big-time shot maker for sure. Igor Milicic played great. He got in a little bit of foul trouble in the beginning of the game, but he played great. Again, it was a gutsy win in a hostile environment, and it was wire to wire. There was really no question who was going to win that game. And like I said, Louisville's got some good players. They've got that big guy who I messed up his name on Friday. I said Kayshawn, but it's Kaysen. He just spelt it kind of like Kayshawn. He had a great game. He's an interesting-looking fella, but he was a good player, a very crafty big man, and our bigs played good. Felix Okapara guarded him well. I mean, Felix played really well, long and just a kind of a threat in the interior. So I genuinely do believe this is probably the best team in the SEC. Alabama, they struggled the other night, but if you watched, it was really just because of their free throws. I mean, they just couldn't hit free throws. Arkansas lost. Obviously, they played Baylor, which is better than Louisville, but they lost the other night. Auburn looks really good. Auburn is coming off of a win versus Houston, and their freshman off the bench, Tahad Pettiford, was on one. Now, I don't know if anybody's seen it, but Auburn recently just had a fight on their team plane, and they had to land it back in Auburn and kick those 2 guys off the plane. One of them being their 4- or 5-star freshman, Ja'Kai Howard, who can jump out of the gym. And I kind of could have told you that if anybody knows what Overtime Elite is, which is like it's a basketball league for high school players, and you kind of get a little bit of behind the scenes, and he was always like that, just horrible attitude, and he can't even play a second collegiate game, and he's in a fight in the air on an airplane with his own teammate. So, I mean, unfortunate for him, because you got to have your head on straight, but Auburn still got the job done at Houston, another hostile environment, and they beat the number 4 ranked team in the country. So credit to Auburn. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Obviously, Johnny Broome is maybe the best player in the SEC right now. So we'll talk. I'm going to talk more on Wednesday. Obviously, we do it in around the SEC type deal for football, but I don't know if I'm going to go through. Obviously, with football, we'll go through like every game of what happened in the SEC, but for basketball, I'll probably just do a little roundup of each team, not go over every single game because, you play a game or 2 every week for basketball. But I think that's going to wrap up this episode of From the Bench. And like I said, man, it's a great time to be a Tennessee Vol. So much to enjoy. And these are our football and basketball programs, the 2 most watched programs, but the baseball team's the best one out of them all. And that'll be here before you know it. But enjoy these 2 while they're here. Our football team is as good as it's ever been. Got a big week coming up. Obviously, a big game for the football team this Saturday, the biggest one of the year, and it's away from home, so it's going to be a big game for the guys. But like I said, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment just about anything. I mean, if you were at the game, like I said, how you feel about these past few games, or your early, not prediction, but how do you see the Georgia game coming up this week? We'll get way more into that on Wednesday and on Friday. But thank you guys for watching, and go Vols.